What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. As I move along with the book, I stumbled across Ray Robinson. I'm in the 1940s, and Ray Robinson is a fighter, obviously, that will be in the book. He's a fighter that, in my opinion, although he is praised, although he is consistently talked about to some degree, and is used as a benchmark to measure yesteryears and today's fighters. He's talked about as being pound for pound, and he's looked at as man can do it all. But Ray Robinson, in my opinion, still don't get the credit he should get in a magnitude that is earned. Let's look at Ray Robinson once again for one moment in a more magnified kind of way. Now, Walker Smith, as we know him, he was known as Smitty in his neighborhood and in his small circle. Yes, small circle. Ray didn't have as many friends as suggested. He was quite quiet and kept to himself as often as he could. He was known as the Harlem Nightstick or the Harlem Jitterbug. Did you know he was also known as the Tap Dance Kid? Now, he was born May 3rd, 1921 in Alley, Georgia. He died April 12th, 1989 in Harlem, New York. Now, he ran through Michigan, Detroit to be exact. And that's where he was known as the Tap Dance Kid. Now, Ray Robinson used to tap dance on the street corners. And how he met Joe Louis. And I got direct source as to this story. Ray used to tap dance on a corner right across the street from Brewster's Center. And Joe Louis, at this point in time, it's about 1930, he would go into Brewster Center, but he had to find a way to go into Brewster Center without carrying his gym bag. So he came across a close call one day as he was crossing the street, where a neighbor of his mother would work in a laundromat. And to avoid the neighbor from seeing Joe Louis carry this bag, he would have Thurston McKinney carry it for him. That was a friend of his who actually introduced him to the game. Thurston McKinney had won the Golden Gloves. He was a very good amateur fighter. And they went to the same school. It was a school for kids who didn't quite keep up with the other kids on an educational level. So as the kids were playing stickball and playing with the water fire hydrant, it's a hot summer day, Ray would be chasing the ball to the corner of the block. And he noticed Joe Louis. Because at that point, Joe Louis had a little bit of a name going for himself, to some degree. And he saw Joe Louis carrying this gym bag, and he was honored that Joe would ask Ray, who was Walker Smith at the time, those on the block called him Smitty, to carry his bag for him. Because he had an idea that this would actually solve his problem. And Smitty was overwhelmed with joy. He was delighted to carry a man who he idoled for the short period of time that he'd known of him, carry his bag. So he walked it across the street where the neighbor of Joe's mom would not recognize that bag belonged to Joe. And this went on for several months before Joe's violin teacher would be spotted on the porch of Joe Lewis's mom, explaining to her about Joe Lewis's absence of the violin lessons. Because that's the reason why Smitty was involved in the first place. Without his acknowledgement of knowing why he was actually carrying the bag, he was under the impression that he was chosen and it was a special moment for him. So that's how the relationship between Smitty, Walker Smith, Ray Robinson would become with the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting Ray Robinson on 2 separate occasions, along with many other great fighters of the past. But the moment that I met Ray was a moment to me of excitement and joy. We spoke about several topics of his life, several topics of his career, several topics of the moment in time of his life. The musicians and the dance clubs, the jitterbug and the Lindy Hop. We talked about his career. And it was a moment that I would never forget. You see, Ray stood 6 foot and he weighed 118 to 165 pounds. Yes, he was a bantamweight. He would win the 1938 Bantamweight Championship title. As an amateur, it was the AAU Metropolitan Bantamweight Championship. That same year, Charlie Burley would defeat Herbert Lewis Hardwood, who was known as Coco Kid. He was the first Puerto Rican middleweight champion in boxing history, although it wasn't the world champion. But it was the colored world championship crown. Now, he would win the 1938 title from Coco Kid. But also that year, Henry Armstrong would hold all 3 championship titles from featherweight to welterweight and lightweight simultaneously. You also had John Henry Lewis, who would defeat Bob Olin in 35 for the light heavyweight championship crown. And Joe Louis, he was heavyweight champion by this time, defeating Jimmy Braddock in 37, Chicago's Comiskey Park. But he would get the revenge of a lifetime. To this day, that was the greatest revenge, in my opinion, of all sports. Because the world was watching Joe Louis. Yes, that happened in 1938. So 1938 was a great year, not only for black fighters, but for American fighters in general. Ray Robinson, by this point in time, he was a protege of Harry Wiley Sr., Soldier Jones, Pee Wee Beard. Great names in the art of fisticuffs. Now, he was managed by George Gangsford and Kurt Harmon. Now, who was Kurt Harmon? He would manage Ray along with George Gangsford towards the beginning of his career. His trainer's name was Harry Wiley Sr. He worked as a water boy for Kid Blackie, Manasseh Moeller, Jack Dempsey. And Dempsey would become the heavyweight champion of the world. July 4th, 1919, in Toledo, Ohio. He would stop the world heavyweight champion, the giant, his name was Jess Willard, lose the title to the Fighting Marine, Gene Tunney. September 23rd, 1926. And he would lose a rematch September 22nd, 1927. Now, when he fought Gene Tunney the first time, it was in Philadelphia. It was a rainy night. They were going to postpone that fight. He would fight him again at Soldiers Field in Chicago in 1927. It would be known as the famous long count. 14 seconds would elapse as Gene Tunney remained on the canvas. He would, as they say, take advantage of the extra precious seconds that was given to him because Jack Dempsey, who was part of negotiations of this new rule going to the neutral corner, disobeyed the paid-off referee. And he was part of the underground world of boxing. He was in the pocket of Al Capone. His name was Dave Barry. Well, Harry Wiley Sr. was a water boy for Jack Dempsey. He would wrap the hands of Sam Langford. Oh, what a pedigree this man had. As an amateur, Ray Robinson had a record of 85 total bouts, 69 knockouts, 40 knockouts in the very first round. As I stated, he would win a bantamweight championship crown. AAU Metropolitan Finals. He would defeat Ed Capelli. He would fight from 1935 to 1938. And he would move up in weight. 1938 to 1939, he would be a featherweight. He would win the Golden Gloves, defeating Spider Valentine in the Golden Gloves finals in 1939. He would move up to the lightweight division in 1940. He would win the Golden Gloves and defeat Andy Nanelli in the Golden Glove finals. As a professional, he would have a record of 202 total bouts, 109 knockouts, 66 wonderful knockouts with left hooks alone, 19 losses. And he would be stopped once through the heat of New York's Yankee Stadium, 1952. It would be a bout with Joey Maxim. And it was mosquitoes all over the place. It was 110 degrees, very warm night. And Ray Robinson would lose his title that he would win from Jake LaMotta in 1951 to a man from England, and his name was Randy Turpin. And he would redeem that title the same year in 51. But his body just was not what it should have been. All the jitterbugging in that tour in 51, after he would win the title from Jake LaMotta. He would have 7 fights, traveling from country to country, And his last fight of the 7 was with Randy Turpin. He would lose the fight in England, but he would come back to the Polo Grounds and defeat Randy Turpin. Well, then right after that, he would challenge Joey Maxim, who was the light heavyweight champion of the world. And to show you how tough Ray Robinson was, he would win every round, but he couldn't come out for the 14th because of heat exhaustion. See, his feet were so fast and his combinations were mind-boggling. Maxim couldn't keep up. And although that was his Joey Maxim's natural weight, Ray Robinson was fighting as a welterweight, and he didn't pace himself. His legs were not under him from the times he had back in England. He was a welterweight between 1942 and 1950. He would take on fighters such as Sammy Engat, Maxie Shapiro, Marty Servo and Fitzy Zivic, Maxie Berger, Jackie Wilson, Ralph Zanelli, and Henry Armstrong, Izzy Genazzo and Kid Gavilan. Just a few names to think about. All the names that I mentioned so far were all champions, every last one of them, except for Maxie Shapiro and Maxie Berger, as well as Jackie Wilson and Ralph Zanelli. As a middleweight, he would fight between 51 and 1965. There he would take on Randy Turpin, Gene Foreman, Carmen Basilio, Rocky Graziano, Carl Bobo Olsen and Paul Pender, Denny Moyer, and Terry Downs. You talk about champions that a man would be in a ring with, back to back to back. What a fighter Ray Robinson was. And as I reunited with Ray Robinson's career, it took me back to conversations that I had with my brother Curtis Anderson, R.I.B. to him. And he was Curtis's favorite fighter. And Curtis would explain to me all the reasons as to why. I understand a lot better now as to why. My dad had a lot of respect for Ray Robinson. Many of the elders that I had talked to and spoken to had Ray Robinson number 1, pound for pound. There's a difference between Ray Robinson's pound for pound acknowledgement and his career's acknowledgement. Now I have Sam Langford number 1. I've explained that many times. Sam Langford is in the book as well. But Ray Robinson was special. There was something different about this young man. He had the appeal. He looked like a fighter. He could bring in flies to a picnic. He brought women in just to see him to the gymnasiums where he trained. Ray Robinson trained in Billy Grubb's gym on 116th Street. That's where the big boys were. Fighters such as Danny Cox and Big Boy Brown, Louis Valentine. As Charles would pass through many times, Charles would spar with Ray Robinson. Ray just had that charisma, had the ability to get his way. My God, could he punch? Combination after combination, body and head, jaw, and liver shots. He would jab to the pit of the stomach and hit you with a straight right hand between the heart. Yeah, he understood the anatomy and how it worked. He knew how to dance twice to the left and step in, check hook you, move around his opponent, and clip him as the opponent would get straight. Before they could figure out Ray Robinson, they were down and possibly out. Ray Robinson was not only a hell of a puncher, but he was an outstanding mastermind thinker. IQ was 100%. And he would get the tutoring from Harry Wiley Sr. And he would be dressed up very well by Pee Wee B, who, by the way, worked in the corner of Henry Armstrong, a legendary welterweight. Ray Robinson began his professional debut with Henry Armstrong and Fitzy Zivik, October 4th, 1940, in New York's Madison Square Garden, becoming the first black fighter to accomplish that. Now, other things that I admired of Ray Robinson, there's quite a few, by the way. He won a World Welterweight Championship crown at the age of 26 at the legendary New York's Madison Square Garden. It was against Youngstown, Ohio's welterweight, ranked number 7 and brought down to number 2. His name was Tommy Bell. He had a record of 39 wins, 10 losses, and 3 draws. But Tommy Bell could fight. He was 23 years old. He stood 5 foot 7 inches as welterweight. On the night of December 20th, 1946, New York's Madison Square Garden, it was packed with very anticipating Harlemites. 15,670 hard-working fight fans would invest $82,948 to watch Smitty, better known as Ray Robinson. It was ranked number 1. The welterweight division, it was before the vacant crown dropped by Marty Servo, who at that time was the welterweight champion of the world. Now, Ray had defeated Marty Servo twice before, but Servo didn't want any part of Ray Robinson. Servo's last fight would be against Rocky Graziano. He'd get a broken nose. He would have one more fight because he stepped aside of Ray Robinson. And he said, to hell with it, I'm going to give this title up. And I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But Ray Robinson was too dangerous of a fighter for the average welterweight. During those years, Marty Servo became the champion, defeating Freddie Redcock Clean, who was 5 foot 7.5 inches, from Elizabeth, New Jersey. It was a World Welterweight Championship. Now, the promoter was Mike Jacobs. He first offered former World Lightweight Championship title opportunities to Sidney Walker, Bo Jack, and New Jersey's lightweight Tippy Larkin. Gave him the opportunity to face the 5-1 favorite Ray Robinson for the vacant crown, and they would both refuse. So Tommy Bell would then be granted the opportunity. Ray Robinson's pro lightweight career began October 4th, 1940, July 21st, 1941. It was his 25th lightweight bouts. He would have 25 of those lightweight bouts. October 4th, 1940, Ray Robinson's professional debut, New York's Madison Square Garden, was on the undercard of Henry Armstrong and Fitzy Zivik for the welterweight championship of the world. Armstrong's historic 20th World Welterweight Championship contest. Robinson meets Puerto Rican Bronx lightweight Joe Escoveria. Ray defeats Silent Stafford, Bobby Woods, Norman Cortez, Oliver White, Benny Cartonnage, Bobby McAnedy, Gene Spencer, and Jimmy Tonk. Fought him twice. Charlie Burns and Victor Torres, Mike Evans, among many. We take on Sammy Angot, July 21st, 1941, at Shiad Park, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 10-round unanimous decision. 21st bout, 15,000 in the crowd for the NBA World Lightweight Championship contest. Or was it supposed to be? Angot did not make weight. Robinson drops Angot at the count of 9. The 10-round non-title bout. Now, Sammy Angot, Salvadori Angotti, He was known as the Clutch, or the Louisville Slugger. Was born January 17, 1915 in Washington, D.C. He would die October 22, 1980. He was 65 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, he had a total bout career of 131 fights, 94 wins, 23 knockouts, 29 losses, and 8 draws. He would win a Kentucky State Lightweight Championship crown over Whiskey Jones, the vacant NBA Lightweight Championship crown over Davey Dave, December 8, 1939. He would win a New York SAC Lightweight Championship crown by defeating Lou Jenkins, December 19, 1941, and a vacant NBA Lightweight Championship crown from Luther Slugger White, October 27, 1943. Oh, what a year that was. 43, Ray Robinson would take on his idol, Henry Armstrong. Henry Armstrong would take on Ray Robinson and Bo Jack, and Willie Pep was in the mix. Ray Robinson's pro welterweight career began August 27, 1941, and it ended August 9, 1950. He had 92 welterweight championship, or what, 92 welterweight fights, I should say. And he defeated Marty Servo, 10 rounds, September 25th, 1941. He defeated Fritzy Zivic, 10 rounds, October 31st, 1941, in New York's Madison Square Garden, October 31st, 1941. He would defeat Fritzy Zivic, 10 rounds, January 16th, 1942, at New York's Madison Square Garden. Once again, he would perform at the Garden, taking on Maxie Berger, 10 rounds, February 20th, 1942, at New York's Madison Square Garden. Norman Rubio, 10 rounds, March 20th, 1942. We defeat Marty Servo. And Robinson defeats Fritzy Zivic, 10 rounds in New York's Madison Square Garden, October 31st, 1941. He was 21 years of age at that time, weighed 139 pounds, and it was a 7-5 odds between the two of them. 20,000 spectators in the house. Zivic weighed 146 pounds. And Robinson would defeat Fritzy Zivic, 10 rounds in New York's Madison Square Garden, again, January 16, 1942. This time he was 22 years of age, weighed 142 pounds. And the referee was Arthur Donovan, who would normally referee championship bouts, but Ray Robinson was special. He awarded Ray Robinson with a 10-round decision victory. 15,476 spectators in the house. Zivic was dropped once in the 9th round and once in the 10th round. Ray Robinson had told his idol, Henry Armstrong, that I will get your revenge. As Mike Tyson would tell Muhammad Ali he would do that for his loss with Larry Holmes. Robinson would defeat Marty Servo, 10 rounds at the Convention Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in front of 11,000 spectators who invested $16,110. The referee was Irvin Clutcher, and he awards Ray Robinson with a 10-round victory. Robinson weighed 141 pounds, and Marty Servo weighed 140 pounds. Robinson defeated Marty Servo, 10-round decision. 13,673 spectators paid $31,870 to watch the referee, Billy Kavanagh, take the second round away from Marty Servo for low blows. Now, Marty Servo stood 5'7" and he weighed 143 pounds. His Ray stood 6 foot, and he weighed 144 pounds. Side note: 1946 World Welterweight Championship title holder Marty Servo retires from the ring after a broken nose suffered from future world middleweight champion Rocky Graziano. March 29, 1946, in New York's Madison Square Garden. It was a via second-round knockout. Marty Servo had won a welterweight championship crown, defeating Reddy Fred Cochrane, February 1st, 1946, at New York's Yankee Stadium, defeating him in 4 rounds. And Robinson would become the world welterweight champion December 20th, 1946, when he would defeat Tommy Bell in New York's Madison Square Garden. Now, the thing about that fight, my dad was at the fight. And during those days, you had to sit in the upper tier as a black man. And when Ray Robinson was hit with a beautiful right hand, went down, The arena went quiet. Couldn't hear a pin drop. You couldn't hear a rat piss on cotton. Everyone was in awe because they just knew that Ray would not get up. My understanding, you can hear the punch and you can see the conch of Ray Robinson's hair, sweat fly from that, and somewhat of a Hollywood movie script. And when he went down hard. But he looked at his corner, Harry Wiley Sr., gave him what they called the Harlem look. Ray knew what that meant. He would get on one knee, wait for the count, and he would get up at the count of 9. My God, when Ray Robinson would clear his head, he would pop the jab, swivel his head from left to right, as his shoulders maneuvered as a mechanic machine would. He would tie his man up when he got close, push him off, and continue to jab and dance around that ring like a ballerina. It was one of the most emotional times in Harlem, because the last man you actually had who really made Harlem proud was the Harlem Thunderbolt, Harry Smith. And that's back in 1929 when he would defeat Jack McVeigh, the pride of Harlem. He fought him at the Athletic Club, and he would win the colored middleweight championship title. Now, the last welterweight fighter that a black man would represent would be Henry Armstrong. But the last time a black middleweight represented the community in general was William Landon Jones when he defeat Ozone Piazza, and he would lose that title to Marcel Theo. Ray Robinson would defeat the Cuban Hawk, Kid Gavilan, in 15 rounds, July 11, 1949, in Philadelphia Municipal Stadium. He had 27,805 spectators, Ray's 99th professional bout. Third welterweight title defense. I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I'm rambling on here. But as I write this book, that's just a chapter in the book that I wanted to share with you. Ray Robinson, greatest pound for pound of all times. Thanks for listening. See you in the next video. Peace.